Hi, everybody. Really excited for our conversation today. We're going to talk about friction, which is really one of my favorite topics. So, as we're getting started, just a couple things. A reminder, I'm Brandi Michelle. I'm a happiness coach, and I help really successful people who've been focused on achievement their entire lives, but then realize that kind of money and success aren't giving them the fulfillment and happiness that they thought they would. And, the work that I do helps them shift that paradigm and realize that happiness has to be a goal unto itself. I know, all of you understand kind of the fundamentals of happiness, right? Like we meditate, we practice gratitude, we prioritize relationships. But the work that I do helps you bring like greater awareness to all of those things and then ultimately embody them so that you can actually see a shift in your life. Um, so that the work works for you. So I love this work. I think it's the best job in the world. And I often share with people that the unintended consequence of raising your happiness set point is that, like, through the cultivation of true happiness, that what you're seeking comes to you much more easily. So life just feels like a little easier. So I'm going to put in here a link to my website so that you have it. Also, just as we're getting started, a reminder that if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, whether you're listening live or listening at a later time. If you add a question in the chat, we do always come back and circle back to them. Also, feel free to always shoot me a note. So this one isn't going to be so long. This is about friction. And what do I mean by friction? I really mean, when challenges are showing up in your life. And so these challenges are showing up in your life as a lesson, right? It's coming to help you see something that for whatever reason you don't have a strong awareness of. And we have these patterns in our life that just will continue to show up over and over again until we get the lesson. So that's really what life is about, right? So for me, I had like a big lesson in my life that was showing up kind of in my work experiences where at work, I kept seeing kind of this situation where like my executive team would have like really strong appreciation for my work and my work product and recognition for what I brought to the table. And then there'd always be like a peer that I had more friction with. And this kind of played out throughout the entirety of my career. But once I took a step back and kind of like just wrote out what was happening throughout my career, it became like wildly apparent that this was the pattern that was repeating. And so now I really use that model often to understand kind of like what is this friction trying to show me. So let's first start with maybe just a few examples of like what friction is. So friction can show up like for me, if I'm walking down the steps and I trip kind of as I'm walking, I'll be like, oh, that for me, I call it God, but you can call it infinite intelligent. You can call it your highest self. You can call it the divine, kind of whatever is kind of this all knowing aspect of yourself in your life. That is what's trying to get your attention, right? So if I trip down the steps, I'll say like, oh, okay, you're trying to get my attention, and what are you trying to share with me? So other things is like friction with other humans. So like if you're having challenges with your child, with your spouse, with your significant other, with family members, that is kind of like friction that we're all aware of. We also see friction come up in ways um, like we're working towards a goal and there keep being kind of these stumbling blocks that are unexpected, right? So if someone is helping you with a project and they aren't showing up when they're supposed to, that is like a message for you. Um, and if you are like working on a project and portions of it keep getting delayed through no fault of your own, that I would consider friction. So friction is like a really like broad brush term that pertains to anything that doesn't go smoothly, right? So, as I always share with you all, like life gets to be easy. We are meant to live life kind of in flow. We are meant to live life from this perspective that ultimately it's like one step in front of other. We're following our intuition, we're being divinely guided, and we move forward, right? Like this is like the ideal way that we live our lives. Now, almost no one doesn't, right? Like unless you've reached enlightenment. So this is what we aspire to, and this is what we know is possible. Like I try to steer away from like thinking of that like state of enlightenment as being impossible, because when you think that, you're just like inviting more friction into your life, because again, our brain is always going to prove us right. So we know that enlightenment is this kind of possibility. It is a very lofty goal, but one that we can hold lightly. We don't hold anything too strongly. And so we know that ease is our birthright and we get to be there. We know that the human experience is most likely going to have some aspect of these patterns of friction, because we're learning, growing, and evolving. So it is part of the process. So to minimize the amount of friction that we have in our life, like regardless of how big or small it is, we must get the lesson. And so, what are some things that we can do to get that lesson? I mean, more than anything, we should just like pause and be in this space of listening, right? I think of friction as like being tapped on the shoulder. Now, it will evolve from there. If you're not listening, it kind of taps you on the shoulder. Then I say it whispers to you and it whispers to you in the ear, and then it smacks you across the face. And so we want to get the lesson when it's tapping us gently on the shoulder, and much sooner than when it's smacking us in the face. And we really get to that place by being connected to ourselves and listening to that guidance, the same guidance that is trying to get our attention, has a very clear lesson or message for us. And so, one way that we can do that is through meditation. If you can really quiet your brain waves to this alpha state. This alpha state is a state of reception, right? It is a state of where you are bringing information in kind of through this beautiful quantum field. And so when you can be like really quiet with your thoughts, then you're going to get a message. And over time, the more that we meditate, the more we bring our brainwaves down to that alpha or theta state, the more we are able to commune with the highest version of ourselves, with our future self, and understand what that lesson is meant to be. Another way that we can oftentimes like get clarity on a lesson is through journaling, right? So when we write down kind of these circumstances, we are able to see a clear picture. And so I feel like really quieting our mind and sitting quiet. We can do it through prayer. If you're someone who believes in prayer, just having a conversation with the divine, with God, allows us oftentimes to get like very beautiful clarity on that which we're meant to know, that which we're meant to learn. And then kind of the underpinning of all of that is this fundamental belief that the lesson is available to us, right? So if you think of this as like, oh, I know that there is a lesson out there, but I just don't know how to get it, right? Like that idea of difficulty that you're putting out into the universe is actually going to preclude you from like clearly understanding what that lesson is, versus sitting in this space of like, okay, today I'm really going to understand why I broke my ankle, why I am having this pain in my shoulder. I'm going to understand why my sister and I are arguing. I'm going to understand why every Saturday I ask my husband to do the laundry and he doesn't do it, and it really like puts me over the edge. I'm going to seek to understand why, when my kid doesn't put his or her dishes in the dishwasher, my blood rises like to this abnormal level, right? So anytime these things are showing up for you, you have to set an intention to understand it, right? Instead of going down this rabbit hole where you convince yourself that it is impossible to know, right? So just like set an intention, I'm going to understand today. And then the more that you lean into that, the more that you understand that clarity is available to you, the faster and easier it will come, right? And so all of the work that we are doing together, whether we're working together with you and I as a client, or you're following me here on socials and kind of like implementing this in life, all in your life, all of this work is really meant just to ensure that you are a clear channel to be able to receive all of the information and guidance that you need in order to take action. And then you take action, and then you see the results in your life, right? And then we move away from our thinking brain, which we're going to talk about in the near future. We move away from our thinking brain, which is trying to guide us, right? And believes that it is taking this rational action, and we start to follow our knowing. And it is through this process of clearing, so we don't see the friction, and being able to communicate clearly with the highest version of ourselves, that we build a life that is full of ease, that is constantly in flow, and where we start to see these synchronicities, and we move from calling them synchronicities to just like knowing that that's how life gets to be. And so that's what the work of this lifetime is like up this path towards enlightenment, away from friction. And so one other thing that we want to make sure that we're kind of in this space. So we're in this space of setting an intention, and we're also in this space of really just knowing, right? So two things that we can do, just to recap: we can meditate and we can journal. Actually, three things I forgot. And we can pray, if praying is something that you can do, that you choose to do. And the next thing is just knowing that the answer is available to you and setting an intention to have it. So when you do those things, you are going to have this kind of beautiful clarity around your life, and it's going to allow you to reduce the amount of friction. And you're going to see that even though friction shows up in many different ways, it all is oftentimes, or many of them, not all, many of the things are related to the same message that the universe is trying to give you. And once you get the message, then you'll be in this really beautiful place. And so that's the work. So that's all I wanted to say about friction. I would love if you have any comments or thoughts, or how you've cleared friction from your life, or anything to add to this, please put it in the comments. I did share with you a link to my 4-week course, which the next cohort launches on the 2nd of July. As a reminder, the Joy Blueprint is a beautiful 4-week course where you have kind of 20 classes over the course of this time. We also have 4 community calls, 1 per week, and it takes you through my proprietary process, base, beliefs, alignment, self-awareness, and emotional resilience. And it takes you through that process to help you, again, increase your happiness set point so that you can see more ease and flow in your life. So if you've ever felt like, life was more challenging than you would like, if you ever felt like you were putting all the right inputs in, but still not as happy as you would like to be, I've created this course just for you, because I too felt that way. And I, over the course of my lifetime, have been obsessed with human potential. And through really evolving my own life, I developed these these ideas, which I put into the course to help you also increase your happiness set point and just have less friction in your life, to see more joy, and to just overall love life a little bit more. So you can learn more at the Joy Blueprint. You can also head to my website and sign up for my journal entries, which publish on the 1st and 15th of every month. And I would absolutely love for you to be on my email list so that you receive those. In the meantime, have a wonderful week, and I look forward to hearing from you. Bye now.